Hello, my name is Chhayankdhar Singh Rathore, and the topic of my presentation is Drama Events in Self-Access Centers, Traversing Uncharted Waters. I'm an assistant professor at the World Language Center of Soka University in Japan. Let's begin our presentation. This presentation will be divided into two parts. In the first part, I will talk about self-access learning and drama. It's not a very well-researched field, but there are some important things that we might want to look at. The second part would be talking about the drama workshops I've organized at the Self-Access Center of Soka University. Let's look at the background of self-access learning centers in Japan. Self-access learning is gaining popularity in tertiary education in Japan. This has seen increasing establishment of self-access learning centers and the hiring of staff and facility to manage these centers. I call this the brick and mortar approach. Let's talk a little bit more about the brick and mortar approach. It has two components. The first is building and setting up self-access learning center spaces on campus. I'm talking about the physical buildings and the rooms that are created. The second component is investing in materials, resources, technology, and infrastructure required to run these centers. For example, graded readers, computers, iPads, etc. However, Jo Maynard, in her introduction in the CISOL journal, says that there are three shifts in self-access environments that are taking place. The first is the rise of online and digital platforms for language learning. This increasing popularity of online and digital platforms creates alternate venues for learners to go to instead of coming to self-access learning centers. The second is the rise of informal learning tools such as mobile application, MOOCs, etc. This again gives them an alternative platform to access. The third, which has been increased due to the pandemic, is that governments and institutions are emphasizing on the inclusion of autonomous learning within conventional language courses. As a result, the lines between a self-access specialist and a conventional language educator are getting blurred. So the question arises, how do we at self-access centers adapt to these three shifts? The good news is that Jo Maynard also recommends three things that we can do to deal with these challenges. The first is focus on social dimension of learning. The second is focus on affective factors. And the third is focus on learner autonomy. So when I looked at these three recommendations, I thought that, okay, there's focus on social aspect of learning, plus focus on the affective, which is the emotional aspect of learning, and finally, focusing on learner autonomy. And what I thought was that something that incorporates all of these three elements is drama. But you might ask me, drama in self-access language centers? Haven't really heard of that. Let's look at this topic in a little more detail. So, drama-based self-access materials have been mentioned by Cooker, and she talks about how there are specially written dramas with accompanying activities that can be used in self-access materials because they focus on the four skills. Use of drama also helps the learners access language in a context. Gradual familiarity with story and characters leads to a gradual increase in understanding of language. The language that they're interacting with is authentic and meaningful English because the language they produce leads to a tangible action or consequence taking place in the drama. This makes it an achievable challenge. And finally, there is affective as well as cognitive engagement in drama. There hasn't been much research about the use of drama or drama workshops in self-access language centers, but there is one example from Saitama University. In this case, the SALC was used as a venue for student-led drama productions. So essentially, it was an extracurricular activity of sorts, and the students were encouraged to perform their drama productions in the Self-Access Learning Center. What was happening was there was use of role plays, dramatic reading, and storytelling in the workshops that they were organizing as well. These workshops gave existing storyline script and characters to the students, and the students would try to explore, understand them better, and then dramatize. So there was focus on the emotional connection with the target language, which in this case was English. There was also highlighting of the importance of paralanguage, which is reactions, gestures, etc. There was, according to that paper, as a result, there was greater understanding of situational verbal as well as body language. Finally, it was a scaffolded step-by-step process that led to the learners overcoming foreign language anxiety and built confidence. But that's not the drama I'm talking about. I'm talking about process drama. What is process drama? It is not performing for an audience. It is not the TV doramas or the use of TV soap operas in English to practice English. And it is not written dramatic scripts or plays that are used. So what is it? Let's have a look at that. These are some of the characteristics of process drama. There is no formal external audience. It is completely learner negotiated. It is episodic in nature. That is, it happens over either a long period or multiple sessions. Now, this part can be a bit of a challenge when it comes to self-access learning centers. But let's continue and look at the other characteristics. There is explorations of roles and situations. There is a theme instead of a pre-written script. And there is constant problem posing and resolution that happens through the course of the drama. So this was a little bit about the background of the interaction between drama and self-access learning centers. Let's move to the second part of today's presentation, which is drama workshops at Soka University's Self-Access Center. Let me begin by giving you a context. Soka University's Self-Access Center was established in 1996. According to the Registry of Self-Access Centers on the JASOL website, it is one of the oldest registered self-access centers in Japan. There are multiple programs that the Self-Access Center offers. There is English Forum and Chit Chat Club for communication in English. There is Writing Center to work on academic writing and advising on writing as well. There is the Speaking Test Preparation Center that supports students in preparing for the speaking section of language exams. There is the English Consultation Room, which operates in Japanese, and it is entirely focused on learner advising. There is the Global Village, which deals with language learning in languages apart from English and Japanese. And then there's the Nihongo Dojo, which is targeted towards the international students who are learning Japanese as a second language. Finally, there are one-off events. And this will be the focus of my presentation today, as I will talk about the 3 kinds of drama workshops that I conducted at the Self-Access Center and the lessons I learned from it. The first workshop was titled Fun with Drama Games. It was a 2-hour-long workshop. There was an assortment of drama activities, not necessarily interconnected. The focus was on the fun and social aspect of drama. The students did have a lot of fun, but there was low student turnout. And when I was reflecting on this workshop, I realized that the language used was accidental and not intentional. And not a lot of English conversation was being sustained, as the activities were non-verbal or physical in nature. I felt that it was lacking in cohesiveness. I kept on asking myself, what is the bigger picture? And I also felt it was lacking in a clear pedagogical foundation. So I worked on it, I rebooted the workshop and came up with the second version, which was titled Telling Stories Through Drama. This was again a 2-hour-long workshop. It was more structured than before. The focus was on group work, roles, and storyline. There was greater use of target language by the learners. There was better connection between the drama activities, so one activity was logically leading to the other. But there was still low student turnout. After this workshop, when I reflected on how could I have improved it, I realized that still there was a lack of overall theme, which led to drastically different student performances. And then the learners were finding it difficult to find context or a framework in which they could create their small drama performances. The question about what is the bigger picture was still unresolved, and I felt that the structure, although there, was still a little too loose. Then I worked on it once again and came up with the third and final version. For this, I used a process drama pedagogy. There was discussion and drama activities. There was step-by-step scaffolding. There was an overall theme. So I chose the theme of global issues. Now, in the workshops, the students were operating in smaller groups, and each group could choose their own topic. But the overall theme was global issues. The title of this workshop was Understanding Global Issues Through Drama. In terms of the low student turnout, I kind of took things in my hand and I went door-to-door publicity to my colleagues, encouraging them to send their students to the workshop. I also started targeting English medium programs where the students were more likely to participate in a global issues workshop. And we also tried awarding participation stamps to the students to incentivize participation. As a result, we had an interesting combination of students from various majors, various language fluencies, and various nationalities come together for this workshop. This time, the turnout was much higher than the previous times. And this was the final version. All the pictures that I'm sharing about publicity and other pictures from this workshop are publicly available on the Facebook page of the Soka University World Language Center Self-Access Center. So this was the poster, and we did bilingual publicity in English as well as Japanese. I divided the workshop into 3 phases. The first phase was preparatory activities. There was an introductory prompt, group discussion based on that prompt, a drama activity called Roll on the Wall, and another drama activity called Hot Seating. Let's look at them in a little bit more detail. These were the introductory prompts, pictorial representations of certain global issues that I put on the whiteboard, and I had the students choose first, identify which of the picture is connected to which global issue according to them. I did not give them any right or wrong answers. They were at liberty to interpret the pictures as they liked. Each group chose one picture, which means one global issue that they were interested in. That became their topic for the remaining workshop. Here are some more pictures about some more global issues. Then there was group discussion. And these were the worksheets I provided to scaffold their group discussion. The students would discuss what their idea about their global issue is and explore it through the lenses of who are the people, stakeholders involved, who causes it, who's affected by it, and who can resolve it. What's the issue? What are the effects of it? Why is it happening? So what are the causes? And finally, where is it happening? What are the affected areas? This group discussion was followed by a second group discussion in which they zoomed in on the who, the people part. Each group member chose one category of stakeholder. Maybe one student chose who was affected by the problem. The other student chose who was causing the problem. And the third student chose who had the power to resolve the problem. Once they had chosen these categories of roles, we moved into developing the roles in greater detail through the activity called Roll on the Wall. Essentially, I gave them this kind of a gingerbread man figure, and they had to create details about their character. Here's an example that I made for this presentation. There's the name of the character, a pictorial representation, and then the age, hobbies, family situation, any struggles that the character is having in their day-to-day life. So this was an attempt to make them think about details and give greater dimension to their roles. Once this activity was done, we moved on to the last preparatory activity, which was hot seating. It is essentially a character interview. The students are divided into groups, and then each group stands in a circle with one student in the center on what is called the hot seat. The group members interview the student, and the student responds in role, not as themselves, but as their character. Each student gets about a minute or two to come to the hot seat, and every person in the groups get a chance to be interviewed and respond to these questions. This activity scaffolds the process even further and helps the students flesh their characters in greater detail. The next phase was the performance activities. The first activity that we did was we requested each group to show us one frozen moment, a frozen frame, or a tableau from their story. There was no need for dialogues or movement. They just had to show us a frozen moment. Once they had shown us this one picture from their story, they were requested to make another frozen moment, which was 1 hour before this, and a third frozen moment that was 1 hour after the first frame created by them. In this way, by the end of this activity, we had 3 frozen moments that followed the narrative of the story. This helped the students plan their storyline without worrying about the dialogues or the target language. Once this was done, we moved on to the second activity, which was thought tracking. In this, the other participants of the workshop and the facilitator came forward and interviewed the students as they were in the frozen picture. We asked them about their name, their relationship with the other characters, their emotions, anything they would like to say in the moment. I began by modeling this as the facilitator, but soon I passed on the reins to all the other participants, and they were actively interviewing each other. Another activity after this, the students were given time to work on their storylines to stitch the 3 scenes together with dialogues and movement. If a particular student was struggling in coming up with dialogues, there is an activity called the Conscience Alley, in which the students line up in 2 rows, and one of the students who is struggling with coming up with dialogues walks in between those 2 rows. And as the person walks down this symbolic alley, the students represent their thoughts, their voice, and they say different things to give the student some idea of what can be some potential dialogues that the character would say. Finally, after getting about 20 minutes to rehearse, the students perform this small skit for other members of the workshop. This was the performance phase of the activity. I will now share some pictures. All of these pictures are open access pictures available on the Facebook page of the Soka University Self-Access Center. You can see in the bottom corner that there is a group discussion taking place, and the other 2 pictures show the performance happening. There were people who were in their characters of fish, of boats, of human beings, of machines, and all the materials around them were channelized to be used as props. At the top right, you can see me introducing the prompt, the pictures, to the students. At the bottom, you can see the thought tracking activity in progress. On the right-hand side, you can see the hot seating activity in progress. One student is standing in the center of the circle, and the other students are interviewing them. The student responds in role. Once the performances are done, the students can also be shown reflection activities such as group discussion to discuss how was the experience, what was the good memories, what could have been better, and what did they learn about the social issue, the global issue, or what any new language thinks that they learned. They can also be asked to do journal writing in role, which means they write one day in the life of their character, not as themselves, but in first person as their characters. So these were some of the activities I used in the process drama based drama workshop for students at the Self Access Center of Soka University. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can contact me at this email ID. And here are my references. Thank you.